Thinking is something that most of us take for granted. Unfortunately, due to television, addiction to electronic games, and a very poor educational system, clear thinking in America is in very short supply. The result is that most people are low-order thinkers. When people have a hard time seeing clearly, it's far easier for those with enough money to create separation and polarization in the population. And that's what's happening right now. Every crisis becomes confusing. And then when we stack crises on top of crises, whether they're real or not, or exaggerated, for most people the situation becomes hopeless. Confusion becomes fear. And when people are afraid, they can be made to do almost anything. Now the powers that be know that. The owners of digital media operations, large corporations, the CIA, and about anyone else who'd like to manipulate you have spent billions to observe your shopping habits, what you watch on the internet, and it's no secret that they can accurately predict how a population will behave in any situation. In the immortal words of Rahm Emanuel, their motto is, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste." Now you may believe you're a high-order thinker. You may think that because you're highly educated and very intelligent. But that doesn't mean that you know how to think at even a fraction of your capacity. And luckily for you, as well as for our world, there is a solution that comes to us from an unexpected source. The ancient Kahuna priests of Hawaii developed a high-order thinking system. The acronym for that is HOTS, H-O-T-S, that's just as powerful today as it was thousands of years ago, because it's based on an exceptionally sophisticated understanding of our human nature. Until recently, this science remained a closely guarded secret that they brought with them to Hawaii from a place they called the motherland. Because of their mastery of HOTS, these predecessors to the Hawaiians we know today could see that humanity was headed for disaster. They also knew that their system of high-order thinking would be required if humanity was to survive. And that's why they went to Hawaii. They wanted to keep their system of looking at the world safe until a time would come when their message could fly around the world as if on wings of a bird. These Kahuna warned a time was coming when people from all over the world would be facing tyranny due to a power-hungry elite who would gain control of governments and create a series of crises, then seduce the world's many low-order thinkers to flock to their solutions. And in that way they intended to impose their tyrannical rule on the entire world. Could this be true? Well, if you examine the global mission of the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, and those who are supporting them, you'll realize that these are the elite we were warned about. I'll put a link to them into the description below so you can realize this is not an ungrounded conspiracy theory, although that's what they would like you to believe. My name is Lono. I'm a Kahuna priest, and I'm a living representative of this ancient Polynesian culture that's virtually unknown in the modern world. We're called the Mo'o, a Hawaiian word that means the dragon priesthood. The name refers to our ability to teach people how to pass by the dragon that guards the threshold to enlightenment. To do that, we use the same system of high-order thinker that originated on a motherland tens of thousands of years ago. Today, we call it Huna wisdom. And for the first time in nearly 1,000 years, my family in Hawaii has given me permission to teach as many people as possible their secret. Why now? Well, humanity is facing an existential threat due to the development of nuclear and biological weapons capable of destroying all life on Earth. And at the same time, people have become deeply confused and polarized because of politics, religion, and a news media that has all but forgotten its sacred mission. It does not take a genius to see that the future of humanity depends on enough people learning how to think at a much higher level than ever before if we're to avoid a disaster that will affect not only ourselves but our children for many generations, and that's if we survive at all. Why the dragon? Well, the dragon's a metaphor. It's a fearsome four-headed beast. The mother dragon is called worthy, unworthy. and she holds in her mouth the pearl of great price, enlightenment. Her daughters are named good and bad, right and wrong, and fair and unfair. Now, what does this mythological dragon have to do with higher order thinking? Notice the name of the mother and her children. The dragon is a metaphor for the source of fear that drives low order thinkers. Such people are trapped by the habit of looking at the world in terms of worthy and unworthy, good, bad, right, wrong, and fair and unfair. And this kind of thinking is the product of religious traditions that became predominant in the West. Other cultures, like the Polynesian culture, were not burdened by such perspectives and developed much healthier ways of looking at the world. People who look at life in those terms are out of touch with reality because those ideas are not real. Are you shocked? They're not real. They're merely opinions. More importantly, they're opinions that lead to conflict. Now, to those who have the skills of higher order thinking, such people reveal themselves to be unconscious and dangerous low order thinkers. For example, the Muslims who ran the airplanes into the World Trade Center believed that what they were doing was right and good. Killing thousands of innocent people made them worthy in the eyes of their God. You know, Ramadan is coming up, so we're seeing people shooting people in Israel just to be worthy for their God. Now, to those trapped in the buildings in New York City, as well as their friends, relatives, and fellow Americans, that behavior was wrong, bad, and unworthy. Neither is real in the absolute sense of the word, because reality is bigger than opinions. What is real is that action was not loving. Love is real. It is something that we can see has a result. It's always a win-win deal. It's what happens when we stand in harmony with the way the world is built, not our opinions of how the world is built. That act in New York City, or blowing up people with bombs, those things result in the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent people, not only at that time, but also in the wars that are the consequence of those actions. Now, such actions are the result of fear, rooted in the need to be worthy, good, right, and fair. And to overcome that fear requires light. What kind of light? It's the understanding of how reality is built, not only in terms of the physical world, but also in the spiritual world. Now, the Western world has developed a strong science that describes the physical world, but it's avoided applying any kind of science to the spiritual world because of conflicts with religion. And that makes our world today not much different than when the Catholic Church imprisoned Galileo for daring to suggest that the Earth was a planet in orbit around the sun. Unlike Western religions, Huna wisdom is a sophisticated science. As a spiritual science, there is no conflict with our capacity for reason. Reason is God's gift to us. It's what allows us to comprehend reality in the world of form or the world of spirit. And that's why Huna wisdom is so important. It offers no conflict with science in the world of form, and it's the most sophisticated science of the world of spirit that exists. So let's understand hindsight a little bit. Kahuna call high order thinking hindsight, or Ike Papalua. Native Americans call it EagleVision. Now, why is EagleVision so powerful? To answer that question, think about the eagle. What can the eagle do that a rabbit cannot do? The eagle can soar effortlessly for hours at a time, its wings using the wind to lift it far above the ground. Its vision is 5 times better than any human. So from its vantage point, it can see the grand scheme of things. It can see what lives on the ground, the water, and the air. The rabbit can only hide in the brush or a hole in the ground. If it ventures out into the open, it becomes prey for the eagle. Now, would you rather be a rabbit or an eagle? And if you don't learn higher order thinking skills, you're a rabbit. Kahuna sees life as a game called Let's Wake Up. It's a game of choices and consequences. Wise choices make life enjoyable. We experience a full flow of life energy. Poor choices bring pain because they block the flow of life energy. Pain's a perfect part of this game because it's a signal that we need to make better choices. Now, the higher a person's perspective and the clearer they can see, the more choices that person can see, and the more evident the consequences that come with any choice becomes. That's the power of enlightenment. Can you see that? How important is it to be able to see all of your choices and what the consequences of those choices would be? Now, what prevents us from seeing with EagleVision are beliefs that are taken to be real, but they're not real. Beliefs warp our vision, and they hide a clear view of reality. For example, the belief that you're worthy because you hold on to some kind of an idea that makes you feel good or right and fair, that's not real. And in our Way of Wisdom courses, you're going to learn why. Most people, even those who graduate from prestigious universities, are clueless about the kinds of high-order thinking skills capable of revealing the kinds of choices that can transform lives and set souls free. Now, why do I single out graduates from prestigious universities? It's because many of these people go on to become our world's political and business leaders. Typically, they come from families that can afford these kinds of educational institutions. And by and large, these families and the schools they support share certain kinds of ideologies in which they've become trapped. Not being able to see past their ideologies, they become functional idiots. When they reach leadership levels, the choices they make create pain for every human being on the planet. Now, used in this context, the word idiot should be viewed as descriptive rather than pejorative. It's used to accurately describe a person who's so trapped by an ideology that they're incapable of noticing that the world they see is not the world of reality. Neither can they notice where their worldview is defective, even to the point of being fatally flawed. The words ideology and idiot share the same origin for a reason. Now, mankind's reached the point where our technology can either serve us, enslave us, or exterminate all life on the planet. And that means for the first time in human history, our world may be on the brink of either enlightenment, tyranny, or extinction. One of the other is increasingly likely to happen, and perhaps much sooner than we think. America, once the world's most important beacon of freedom, is under heavy attack by highly educated idiots, many of whom are leftist progressive billionaires who control the banks, the governments, multinational corporations, the schools, and the media. These billionaires are supported by an army of tit-sucking vassals who, like the parasites they choose to be, have only their own interests in mind. Such people are low-order thinkers, and they live in unacknowledged fear. Because they're afraid, they're addicted to power. Now, should you enroll in our Way of Wisdom course, you're going to learn why, for idiots, power is so seductive, and why the quest for power leads so many to violate the sacred space of others. We can show people how to get past that need for power by learning how to love. I will say this: love demands that we protect our sacred space from idiots. So let's understand a bit about the true nature of love. One thing you must learn if you want to be a higher-order thinker is the true nature of love, not as that word is used commonly, but in the more high-order thinking sense of the word, is not a feeling, and therefore should not be confused with the feeling of caring for someone. Real love is a behavior. It reflects the harmony of the universe / God / all that is, all words for the same thing. For that reason, true love is always a win-win deal, regardless of how it may look to people who are low-order thinkers. Low-order thinkers tend to think that it's loving to remove the consequence of pain from those, whether they be adults or children, who make poor choices. That's caring, not loving. Pain is a perfect gift from a perfect universe, slash God, slash all it is, that is designed to wake us up when we're trapped in the unconscious slumber of idiocy. Removing the consequence of pain for an unloving choice keeps people trapped in their unconscious slumber. That's not love. We must be free to make our choices and endure the consequences of those choices, if we're to wake up. It is that freedom that propels us to ever higher levels of wisdom, and that's the goal of life. The pursuit of power is rooted in fear. Look around our world and you can see for ourselves that for idiots there's never enough power because there's always fear. We must love ourselves enough not to give away our power to such people. That's love for us, but it's also love for the idiots who think that the relentless pursuit of power, whether political or economic, is the cure for what ails them. It's not. Huna Wisdom's high order of thinking teaches us that we cannot love that which we care about, and we cannot be connected to that to which we've become attached. Think about that. In other words, love and caring are not the same thing, nor are connection and attachment. Love and connection are always win-win deals. All parties to the transaction win. And they're a choice that requires HOTS, H-O-T-S, high order thinking. Caring and attachment are always lose-lose deals. And because that's true, there is no such thing as a win-lose deal, because we're all connected. And the truth is, if you're a high order thinker, you realize that if anyone loses, everyone loses. If we are to love, we must resist the temptation to substitute the kind of caring that prevents us from doing the kinds of things love demands. Love demands that we deliver pain to someone who's determined for some reason to violate our sacred space. Love demands that. And those who would violate our sacred space, they're sociopaths. And to the extent that behavior is motivated by an ideology, which is usually the case, they're also idiots. The point of real love is not revenge. The point is to deliver whatever pain is required to wake somebody up who thinks it's okay to violate our sacred space. Now, it doesn't matter whether that person is family, a friend, an employee, a boss, or a government. We must learn to deliver whatever pain is necessary in a spirit of love to teach the violator who's behaving in a sociopathic way that it is not okay, regardless of all their reasons they'll come up with to justify it. That's why parents who cannot bring themselves to discipline their children for fear that the child won't like them for delivering a painful consequence, and I'm not talking about a beating here, but perhaps isolation or the removal of a favorite item. They're not loving that child. Instead, they're raising a sociopath, and that's especially true if they try to give in or negotiate with a child who's throwing a temper tantrum. What that child will learn is that if they scream and yell loud enough, they'll eventually get their way. It's also why freedom is never free as long as unconscious sociopaths exist, and why reclaiming freedom, once given away to such a bully, is so painful. They're used to getting their way, so they'll up the pain until they can get their way again. And that makes things much more painful to get over. So let's look in the future a little bit. What future we will inherit is going to be the result of a collective choice. Those who can see with high-order thinking skills provided by Huna Wisdom are able to see choices that those addicted to lower-order thinkers are not able to see. And you can bet that low-order thinkers will find high-order thinking very irritating, because such people need to be right to cope with their fears. That means that any perspective that threatens their worldview cannot be tolerated. They don't even want to hear it. That is why when high-order thinkers see censorship, They know that they're dealing with low-order thinkers who are revealing that they're idiots and sociopaths, and therefore not capable of constructive dialogue. Because there's nothing to be gained except a sore throat and high blood pressure by arguing with an idiot, high-order thinkers don't waste their time doing so. Instead, they recognize that trying to communicate with an idiot will always result in a power struggle that has no winner. So rather than spend their energy so uselessly, they'll put their efforts into developing alternative ways to get their perspectives and ideas out to those who are looking for the forbidden fruit that's the object of such censorship. So what we can know for sure is that the conflict between low-order and high-order thinkers is going to get much worse. Personal attacks will get worse. Censorship will get worse. The tyranny demanded by low-order thinkers is going to get worse. Fear-mongering by our politicians, supported by their media lapdogs, will get worse. Now, high-order thinkers aren't disturbed by this, because we know that such pain is the medicine our world needs to wake itself up. For me, the more the better. If you're a person who can see the truth of that, then you belong to the family. Let's look at some benefits of higher order thinking skills. HOTS helps us to avoid pain by helping us to make more loving choices in a world full of unconscious people. The higher our perspective, the more we can see, the more loving our choices can be, the more we can put our gift out to the world in a way that will help everyone. In short, HOTS heals pain. And whether that pain is coming from a job, a relationship, finances, medicine, or your own lack of a sense of self-worth, HOTS is the only medicine that's guaranteed to do the job. Higher order thinking skills do not come naturally, and like any skill, mastery requires somebody to teach the skill, followed by a lifetime of practice. Mastery also requires humility and courage, a lot of courage, exemplified by the willingness to transcend limiting beliefs. If enough people can get past their limiting financial, political, and religious biases, that's what we call sacrificing one's sacred cows on the altar of reality, it's quite possible for humanity to achieve levels of prosperity and peace that people have dreamed about since the dawn of civilization. Not only possible, it's inevitable. On the other hand, as you're about to discover, if too many humans remain addicted to low-order thinking, there'll be no way humanity will be able to make the choices needed to survive, much less prosper. You may be a prepper, but even if you do manage to survive, you may regret it. Whether due to tyranny or war, our world will not be an enjoyable place to live. Either way, the choice is yours personally and ours collectively. Because so many of our world's leaders, whether political, religious, financial, or social, are trapped by low-order thinking, they're willing to violate the sacred space of others in their quest for power. These people may be loosely aligned today, but what they don't realize is that once they're no longer little fish like you and I to feed upon, they're going to be left with nothing to feed upon except each other. That HOTS will result in the ability to see a wider field of choices, and their consequences is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact. And those who master the system will find their way of looking at the news and politics, religion, and dialogue with others completely changed as they notice ideas that they once blindly accepted as true don't really connect in the light of day. Holes in logic become immediately evident. So will the true motivations of those who intend to deceive and manipulate others for their personal gain. The perspectives you can gain with HOTS will turn experience into wisdom, revealing enlightened choices that you previously just couldn't see. That's why we called the capacity to engage in higher order thinking EagleVision. And that's something the idiot elites do not want you to have. So how does this work? Well, those who join our Eagle's Nest family will discover a growing family of people who are dedicated to living with an awareness of its insights. You can explore the idea by going to eaglesnestfamily.com, and signing up for our podcasts and newsletters. There's no cost or obligation for that. As free members, you also get access to a powerful set of introductory lessons on HOTS, as well as how HOTS can lead to better decisions about your health, your relationships, safety, and more. And these free lessons will help you decide if the insights available from an understanding of HOTS is as powerful as we say. One thing's for sure, this is a uniquely valuable path that's available nowhere else. And as you make your decision, be aware that there's a principle of Huna wisdom we call manava. That means now is the moment of power. And what this means is that a loving universe provides us opportunities to make a lot of loving choices. But those choices must be made when they're presented. It's a lot like being offered a job. It's one thing to take the time necessary to evaluate whether the opportunity is for you or not, but procrastination past that point will disqualify you for the position because procrastination means that you're not ready. And who wants to hire somebody who doesn't feel they're ready for the job? Hopefully you won't see any value about procrastinating about whether or not to join our family. Just go to eaglesnestfamily.com right now, join our newsletter and podcast membership, take the free classes, and decide for yourself if this is or is not as powerful as we say. The only thing you have to lose is pain. Aloha.
Thank you.